Oi girls and boys and everything in between, it's Ace Trainer Liam with a video that a bunch of you have been requesting for quite a long time. It's interesting that you're even asking me to make this video because I already made this back in March 2015. It was one of the first videos I made on this channel, and that is my favourite Pokemon of each type. But then the more I think about it, the more I realise my opinions over the last 2 years may have changed, so I definitely need to revisit this topic and see if my opinions on Pokemon from 2015 are reflective of my opinions in 2018, because of course new Pokemon have come out, I've battled using different Pokemon that I'd never given a chance before in playthroughs and online, and it's going to be interesting to see what differences there are in this video to the last video. And of course, to make it easy for you guys, because the most commented thing on the last video was you missed this type, you missed that type, didn't miss any types, and I got timestamps to prove it, I'm going to put timestamps for each of the 18 types in the description, so if you get to the end of the video and you think I've missed out one of the types, I haven't, you're wrong, check the timestamps in the description. But without further ado, let's have a look at my favourite Pokemon from each of the 18 types. Starting off with the bug type, we've got Crustle. Now I fell in love with Crustle during my Pokemon Alpha Sapphire randomizer quadlock that I did back on my channel back about 18 months ago, I think. We met our Crustle known as Nomad when it was just a Dwebble, and it became the absolute MVP of that playthrough. Like, it was just so much fun to use, and it ended up being my only Pokemon in that playthrough. We had so much bad luck. We had a Crustle as our lone team member for the majority of that game. It was so much fun, but it just really made me love Crustle. Like, the sturdy ability is just a fantastic ability to have, and it's just a great Pokemon to look at. Like, it's how a Pokemon should be designed. It's a cute little crab animal looking hermit crab thing, but at the same time it looks like a Pokemon because the cube of rock on its back separates it off from your regular kind of hermit crab looking thing. So it really makes it stand out as a Pokemon that is based on an animal, and I really like that. I like when a Pokemon looks like the animal it's intended to be designed of, but also has its own little Pokemon flair to it, and Crustle is a fantastic example of that. Next up, we've got the Dark type, and of course, it's a newbie to the list, it's Incineroar. Now, a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes because they love Decidueye or they love Primarina, but Incineroar, for me, as a wrestling fan, and who generally roots for the bad guys in wrestling, I like people with a bit of attitude, and Incineroar has that in spades. It looks mean, it looks sadistic, it looks evil, it looks like it would break the rules, even though its lore in the Pokedex says that it won't hurt an injured opponent, even though a heel in wrestling would definitely target opponents' weak spots, and if they're injured, it would definitely go in and try and put them out of action. I just really think Incineroar is a fantastic looking Pokemon, and it looks like a fully evolved starter Pokemon to me. So you've got cute little Litten, you've got kinda cute, kinda cool Torracat, and then you've got badass Incineroar. Incineroar really is just a fantastic example of how a starter Pokemon should look. Plus, you know, Thundercats was cool, right? For the Dragon type, we've got Noivern because it's beautiful, it's majestic, it's graceful looking. I absolutely love this Pokemon's design. I think it's one of the best things to come out of Generation 6. It's got the whole boombox ears thing, which I think is an amazing touch, you know. I never would have thought of having something's audio receptors actually be the thing that gives out a massive audio boom burst signal kind of thing. That's just incredible to me. Like, it's a really nice design choice. It's got the whole ruffle thing, which I imagine feels just like this pillow. And this pillow, I'm not gonna lie, this feels amazing. This feels incredible. Like, if anyone wants to buy one of these pillows, make sure it's as fluffy as this. But this is what I imagine Noivern's neck feels like. And not to mention that Noivern, an example of just how much I love Noivern, is the fact that it's the only Pokemon currently that I have tattooed on my body. I will put that on screen if I remember. You guys can check that out because it's on my back, so I don't normally show it off very often because you don't want to see this without a shirt, I'm just telling you. But Noivern, you do want to see because it's the best, most beautiful dragon. For the electric type, I'm going to go with Electivire because it's such a cool Pokemon. It's a hulking electric beast. It looks intimidating, it looks scary, but it's also a Pokemon that I had to warm to. When I first got back into Pokemon, I saw Electivire and I was like, yeah, okay, it's an evolved form of Electabuzz. Big whoop, it's a bigger Electabuzz, wow. But when I've actually got around to using it in battle, I've realized just how incredible a Pokemon it is. It's powerful, it's pretty quick, especially if you use the Motor Drive ability and someone accidentally hits it with a lightning type attack when you switch it in, then you've got a force to be reckoned with. Has a great move pool. It can take on opponents that are significantly stronger than itself because it's just such a great beast of a Pokemon. It's everything you'd want from a Pokemon that can control electricity. It's scary looking, it's intimidating, it's powerful, and it has a real mean streak. Electivire, you are the best electric type. So we're on to the fairy type, and you probably know what it's going to be, don't you? In fact, anybody that follows me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/AceTrainerLiam, probably already knows what Pokemon's going to be my favourite fairy type in this list. Of course it's Wigglytuff. Look at this adorable thing. It's so freaking cute. It's got the beautiful huge anime eyes. It's got the cute bunny ears. It's a bouncy balloon Pokemon. It just looks so warm and fuzzy, and every shred of masculinity in my body leaves my body when a Wigglytuff is around because it's so adorable. I just want to cuddle it. I just want to hold it and be close, and I bet it's all warm and fuzzy, and it's just absolutely adorable. Forget Clefairy and Clefable and all the other garbage Pokemon that are out there. The fairy type leader for me is Wigglytuff because it's just so damn cute. For the fighting type, a majority of the Pokemon are very, very stereotypical. You've got, oh look, it's a boxer, oh look, it's a sumo wrestler, oh look, it's a karate and a judo expert. So I didn't really want to pick one of those really stereotypical looking fighting type Pokemon. So of course I just went with the Mexican luchador, Hawlucha. Hawlucha is just a perfectly designed Pokemon. It looks incredible because it just works so well. Like, it takes its inspiration from obviously the Mexican luchador. Like, Mexican wrestling is one of the biggest things in Mexico. It's just the fact that they took like a very normal looking bird and then they just gave it that Mexican luchador flair, which makes it look so cool. Like, it's not a complicated design when you really look at it, but it stands out. You don't forget Hawlucha in a hurry. Like, you see some Pokemon and you could mistake them for any old animal. You look at Hawlucha and you're like, I know that's a Pokemon and I know that's Hawlucha, and I'm not going to forget that Pokemon because it stands out so perfectly. I mean, even down to its wing design with the very Macho Man Randy Savage kind of frills on it to make its wings is a really incredible addition. And Hawlucha, it's just great, isn't it? Out of a fighting and flying type, that's exactly what I wanted. Just, it's perfection in itself, and I'm definitely not biased because I'm a stupid big wrestling fan. When it comes to the fire type, it's always going to be Arcanine. Like, come on, really? Anything else? Any other Pokemon's really going to take Arcanine's spot? I'm a dog lover. I own a dog. I love dogs. I can't get enough of meeting other people's dogs because they're just one of the best animals in the entire world. And then you've got a big fluffy doggo that's about the size of me that breathes fire. Like, not only can it bite and kill my enemies, but also it can burn them to a crisp so I can eat them later. Wait, what? Scratch that. Arcanine's just incredible. It's adorable, it's bulky, it's great to use in battle because you can use it in several different setups. It's not like other Pokemon that just have one trick to them. Arcanine can be an offensive Pokemon, a speedy Pokemon, a bulky Pokemon. It's just great all round. I love Arcanine. It's the best fire type. For the flying type, we have another Alolan Pokemon, and that is Oricorio, specifically the Pom-Pom form. Again, like Wigglytuff, it's just the cutest freaking thing I've ever seen. It's an adorable little budgie looking Pokemon with little pom-poms on the end of its wings. I don't know how anyone can not love it. It's got an adorable little cry, and it's got great typing. Like, electric and flying is the kind of typing we only really see on legendaries if you ignore Rotom, Fan, and Emolga. And also it's got a great ability in the form of Dancer, where it copies any dance moves used by opponents and uses it itself without having to waste its own move that turn. Like, it's really, really cool. I love the idea behind Oricorio. I love the different forms, but Pom-Pom form is absolutely my favourite flying type. For the ghost type, we're going to Spectre's neck of the woods and going with Chandelure because honestly, I can see why Spectre likes it so much. It's beautiful. It's a really cool design Pokemon based on an inanimate object, but it's an inanimate object Pokemon done right. Like, Gen 5 gets a lot of flack for inanimate object Pokemon being predominantly the majority of the Gen 5 roster. But Chandelure doesn't look to me like a chandelier, like a typical chandelier. Chandelure looks to me like a Pokemon first and foremost. Like, you look at it and you go, what Pokemon is that? You don't go, oh, what's that chandelier doing moving around? You just go, what's that Pokemon? Oh, it kind of looks like a chandelier. All around, just a beautiful spectacle of a Pokemon, and it's just an inanimate object Pokemon done right. And really with the ghost type, where inanimate objects are so common in that kind of type repertoire, Chandelure's just doing it better than anyone else. When it comes to the grass type, this is another one that's influenced by a playthrough that I previously did, and that is Tropius. I had a Tropius in one of my playthroughs that I lovingly called Trinosaur because it's a tree dinosaur, and after using it so much, I fell in love with this Pokemon. I don't generally like the grass type, like it's my least favorite of all the types because it has so many weaknesses right off the bat, and even Tropius itself has a 4x weakness to ice, but everything I love is 4x weak to something, right? But when it comes to the world of Pokemon, it's nice to have a few things based on dinosaurs, and Tropius does it really well. Like, it takes the dinosaur design, combines it with the grass typing for this beautiful tropical Pokemon. It has a certain grace about it as well, because you look at its wings and you realize that they're just leaves, and you're like, how does that thing fly? It's got leaves for wings. But that just adds to the mystery around this Pokemon and just makes it all that more interesting to me. For the ground type, I'm going with the land shark, I'm going with Garchomp. Garchomp is just overall one of the most impressive Pokemon there will ever be. Introduced in Generation 4, this thing just has killed ever since. Like, we all know how badass Cynthia's Garchomp was, and Garchomp itself is so cool, it outdoes its own Mega Evolution. Like, Mega Garchomp's great, but most people use regular Garchomp because it's just such a good, reliable Pokemon. Whether it's got a Choice Scarf or an Assault Vest, this thing can clean house, this thing can be a problem for so many people. You can combine Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet if you want. This thing just has so much versatility to it, and I really think it's one of the coolest looking Pokemon I think I've ever seen. If it wasn't for Noivern being my favourite Dragon type Pokemon, Garchomp would have been in the top spot for Dragon types, but I'm gonna have to fit it in somewhere because it's such an incredible Pokemon, so it's going to the #1 ground spot. For the ice type, look no further than the super reliable Lapras. You can't go wrong with a Lapras. Ice and water is just a fantastic type combination. It gets a great move pool with access to things like Thunderbolt, which you wouldn't expect it to be able to use. It has such great lore behind it because, of course, people in the Pokemon world use it to transport them from island to island. It's the original surf Pokemon. Just everything about Lapras is just so perfect and useful. It can even be a useful Pokemon to have in battle. It's bulky. People don't tend to expect you to bring Lapras, and I really love that about this Pokemon. Not to mention, it's a great Pokemon in terms of design because it's beautiful to look at, but it also kind of looks cool at the same time. It's that kind of grey area that certain Pokemon, like Lapras, do really well, where it's like, it's cute, it can appeal to people that like cute things, it looks cool, it can appeal to people that like cool things. Lapras needs no changing. It doesn't need a pre-evolution, it doesn't need a mega evolution, it doesn't need a normal evolution. Lapras is one of those standalone Pokemon that just does everything right from the word go, and it's been doing that for 22 damn years. We have another new entry for the normal type, and that is Beware. Now this is a Pokemon initially I had no interest in. I was like, oh look, it's a big bear, wow, that's imaginative. But the more I've seen Beware in action, the more I've used Beware, and the more I've watched the anime, I've fallen in love with this thing. This thing has shot up into my top 10 favourite Pokemon of all time right now, because I love the thing. I can't get enough Beware. I'd argue it's even gone into my top 5 Pokemon of all time, because it's just so adorable. Like, I love the way it puts its little hands in front of its face when it's getting attacked. I love its kind of cry that it's got. I love the way it can hug you and crush your bones out of your body. Beware is a fantastic, amazing addition to the Pokemon roster. It's a cool design. I like that it's based on kind of the stuffed animal because it evolves from Stuffle, and I can't be satisfied with my normal plush of Beware. It's just too small. I need a life-size plush of this if possible. So anyone makes life-size plushes, you know, my PO box is on my channel somewhere. For the poison type, I'm going to go with one that technically is Generation 1, but also is technically a brand new Pokemon, and that's Alolan Muck. Alolan Muck has taken the initial design of Muck and made it something incredible. They took the tired old Muck design that was never really generating any buzz in Generation 1 and made it something interesting and imaginative, and it's really taken a somewhat boring Pokemon and made it interesting, and that's really impressive to me, and that's why it's so quickly become my favourite poison type, because it's so cool to look at now. You see a Muck on the field and something's happening, something's interesting, and not only that, it's a terrifying Pokemon to be against if you're not prepared. That makes it just so much more amazing. For the Psychic type, I won't keep you long, it's Grumpig, it's always going to be Grumpig. This is the Psychic type Pokemon's sense of humour. Because if you look at Psychic type Pokemon in general, you've got Gardevoir, you've got Alakazam, you've got Espeon, and I love Espeon, but those kinds of Pokemon are always very serious. Like even Medicham to an extent is a very serious Pokemon. Even Musharna is very serious. But then you look at Grumpig, and it's a dancing pig with psychic powers that confuses people using its little scary, mischievous dance. Like, it's just fantastic. It's the Psychic Pokemon type having a sense of humour, and I really love that. It's adorable, it's just chubby and funny, and you can't go wrong with a Psychic type pig, in my opinion. For the Rock type, you had to know a fossil Pokemon was going to end up in this spot because all the fossil Pokemon are Rock types, so they're just absolutely swamping the list. And this is the only Mega Evolved Pokemon to be in this list, and it's Mega Aerodactyl. This thing is just an absolute hard-hitting speed demon. I've had so much fun in online battles using Mega Aerodactyl, just abusing its speed, abusing the fact that it gets Rock Slide and Iron Head with chances to flinch, and it's just a cool looking Pokemon to behold because it's an evil flying rock monster, and it just works so well on so many levels. I've had so much fun and so much success using Aerodactyl, I never get bored of using it. Like, Aerodactyl's just a great Pokemon all round. Now there are two types left, Steel and Water, and if you think I've missed any types out other than Steel and Water, go check the timestamps in the description, because I haven't. But I've been a bit cheeky with my favourite Steel type because it's a Steel type that's also a Water type, and that's Empoleon. Sorry Mikey, I know you don't like Empoleon, but you stole my birthday, so we're even now, right? But I know Empoleon gets a lot of stick as well for being the worst Gen 4 starter because Infernape can beat it with fighting type moves and Torterra can beat it with ground type moves, but I don't care about that because I just care that Empoleon is a cool Pokemon with a hell of a lot of resistances because it's a Steel type, and having the Steel type on a starter Pokemon is absolutely incredible. Like, I'd argue that technically, even though in Gen 4 people are saying it's the worst starter because of its weakness to two of its other fellow starters, it's the easiest Pokemon to use in Gen 4 because you start off, like, once you hit level 36, you've got all those resistances that come with the Steel type. It's a great Pokemon, it looks so cool, and it's again just a really good example of Pokemon taking an animal from nature, adding a few little bits to it that just make it look like a Pokemon, and it just working perfectly as a design. Empoleon looks the business, it can walk the walk, very much in a penguin kind of way. It can talk the talk, and Empoleon just does everything I need it to, and that's what I love about it. And finally we come to the Water type. We've gone through 17 types, number 18 is the Water type, and obviously everybody that knows me knows which one this is going to be. It's Poliwhirl. Poliwhirl has and probably always will be my absolute favourite Pokemon of all time, so of course it's going to be my favourite Water type. I don't know what in particular really draws me towards Poliwhirl, but I guess it's kind of got this kind of cute, kind of cool vibe to it. I just like using it. I just like having the Pokemon around. Like, I can't get enough Poliwhirl plushes. I can't get enough Poliwhirl like figurines and stuff. By the way, you may not have heard, I've got a PO box, feel free to send them. I just absolutely love this Pokemon. And also, it's a favourite Pokemon that I share with apparently Satoshi Tajiri, and you know what? If it's good enough for the creator of Pokemon, it's good enough for this blue-haired idiot. Poliwhirl remains my favourite Pokemon after 22 years of the franchise being out. Even though I know it's not a strong Pokemon, like, you can't take a Poliwhirl into battle and be successful with it because it's just not a feasible Pokemon to use, especially in a world where Politoed or Poliwrath exist. But at the same time, I can't help but love this Pokemon. There's just, everyone has a Pokemon like that, I think, where even though you can see its flaws, you just love the Pokemon regardless, and that's me and Poliwhirl. That's why it's my favourite Pokemon of all time, and more importantly to this video, that's why it's my most favourite of the Water type Pokemon. So that's my list of my favourite Pokemon of each type. Let me know your lists of your favourite Pokemon of each type. Of course, hit like if you enjoyed the video, follow me on Twitter for all my latest updates, come and hang out in one of my Twitch streams because it'd be so much more fun having you guys there. If you want to support the channel for as little as $1 a month, you can do so via Patreon. The links to everything is in the description below. Hit subscribe if you're new and turn on notifications so you never miss a video, and until next time, I'm Ace Trainer Liam. Keep on training.